to pray. There's no angels where I go, only pieces that are broken, scattered dreams across the floor. I'm home.
Okay, hello everyone, this is K-Root Show here. Now then, we're going to be getting back into this part, and I put in the description that something happened whenever I was recording. My audio file, or my audio, apparently didn't get picked up on very well, because I recorded the entire thing while muted. So I had to re-record. Yeah, so I just voiced over the pictures I was already using, which surprisingly was actually fairly easy to do. Although there are some pretty bad audio cuts because it kept getting interrupted. Now then, this is going to be part 8, I'm pretty sure, to what if Deku had Riddicks abilities. Now, let's cut to back to Class 1A. Ida, he's My Chemical romancing it up by trying not to cry, and being torn whether or not to pick his hero name, Ingenium. And May would just call herself, I want to say Iron Maiden, but that's the name of a band. So she'd probably call herself something like Gearhead, or yeah, probably like the Angel of Metal or something, probably. And this is whenever Deku would, let's say he's sitting right next to Ida, and he asks Ida a question about if he's okay or not, because he can smell Ida's anger, and he can somewhat feel Ida's bloodlust. Now, I did say I was going to be bringing that in. I just kind of forgot to bring it in during the whole heroes versus villains, and it somewhat skipped my mind. Now, because of this, Deku, he would ask Ida, Ida would lie to him, Deku would hand him a small device, stating that you have to remember even heroes need saving sometimes, so if you ever do need help, or you just want to talk to me, just press this button. Ida would ask what this is. He would say that it can work as a comm link, like a two-way radio, and it's also a tracking device. Ida would say if it's a tracking device, then why are you giving it to me? He would say that Class 1A needs to stick together. We're like a giant family. But it's just, even I've been rendered helpless once, and I don't want anyone else to feel like that. So if there's anything I can do to help anyone, I will try. Ida would actually then, he'd give Deku a smile and shake him off, saying that, thank you then. And he would accept this. Now, what Deku didn't tell Ida was that the tracking device is always on. So, Deku can successfully track down Ida. And Deku and May would actually take down they would go for, well, Gran Torino would not try and contact Deku because he essentially can master One for All on his own. So Deku and May would actually take a hero company that deals with tech, probably like Gunhead, because, well, not Gunhead, but Snipe or someone like that. They take an agency, let's just say, with a random pro hero that has to deal with tech, and he's asking them if they can bring their tech in, and he would just say that they need a U-Haul. The guy would say that they'll send a small truck over, and Deku would just say, no, we need like a U-Haul. They wouldn't believe them until they would get most of their tech moved over. A lot of people are impressed by what they've created, and they're asking if the steampunk visuals are really necessary. Deku stating that not only are they necessary, but they're actually feasible and usable. So they actually do serve a purpose. A lot of people are surprised because Deku is essentially that guy that he's essentially like a troubled artist, people feel like. And the fact that he's a lot more powerful than any other person in the room kinda would speak out to people. Now, let's say a hero who has an intelligence quirk actually comes out in a giant mech suit saying that their designs lack flaws, but he would like to see where their current design stands. Because he spent 20 years developing and perfecting his technology. So the mech suit is fully sustainable and essentially recycles its own power. Deku would just say that he can easily take that thing down just with his bare hands. And that the suit they made, it's designed to take him on. Specifically, it was designed to take down Deku. Because that's really the only flaw May would ever have against fighting anyone. It's fighting against someone who can rip you apart with one hand behind their back. Now then, because of this man would actually tell Deku to suit up in the mech suit then, and he would just say that that's not his suit. May would then suit up, and people are laughing her and somewhat mocking her. Deku would immediately just stare them down, and then he would just sit down, saying that his bet is on May. People wouldn't really believe this until the mech suit they wouldn't really believe this until the mech suit. She would put it on, and a lot of the gears, instead of it, because it looks super, super bulky when it's opened, but as soon as she puts it on, because she's still wearing that one-piece suit that she has, everyone kind of doesn't really care, because you got I'm pretty sure you got heroes wearing some skimpier outfits, like Midnight in her early days, so a literal one-piece suit people wouldn't care about. Now, as soon as she puts this thing on, people realize why that's her hero suit, because it's essentially, the suit is flame retardant, it's impervious to acid, and a lot of other things that incorporate into something that would be very useful for a hero suit, like being bulletproof. So it just looks, her like uniform she wears underneath would be somewhat more like this in style and design, but it would. Now, this isn't what I'm talking about, but her hero outfit outside of this suit would be somewhat more like this, but without the arm guards or the metal plating all around it. She'd basically be in a bulletproof Kevlar, like, she's like in Under Armor, so it just looks like a regular mechanic suit where she has her tank top on and her fire retardant suit. So she just put that on fully, zip it up, and then just put the suit on. Now then, as soon as she puts the suit on, the thing would actually compact more onto her, and people would see that it's not as bulky as they thought. Deku would then walk over to the truck, pick up this giant, like, not giant, but it's essentially around the size of a backpack, and he would help May put it on, and then put on some weird attachments. Well, not backpack, but it looks like a giant, like, steampunk-styled backpack, sort of like this thing, with how intricately it's designed. But as soon as he helps her put that on, he would immediately step back, and it would immediately retract the wings, and the boosters would activate. So now May is flying around, actually showing off their designs, and this is whenever the hero would say that that's impressive, but it's still not really anything, so they just need to fight me now, or you just need to come at me now and fight. so I can see where you are actually standing. Now, May would actually start firing off different types of projectiles at this guy, and she would actually really, really piss him off with how well their tech seems to be. And she's just telling them that this is just the new generation. Well, this is just the new generation of heroes actually showing off. The guy would then say that she is impressive, but that suit can't run for long, can it? Now, the suit can essentially run up to about 8 to 7 hours, considering the steampunk style to it, and it temporarily runs off of water power for a bit. So if the suit gets too dry, it has flaws. Because as you're sweating in the suit, it can't really take the sweat you're producing and use it to fuel your suit. So now then, after this, May would actually have to improve some of the things to the suit, along with Midoriya helping her. Deku would actually show off his quirk, and he would tell them that the best way he can use his quirk is by it being entirely dark. But he also has he can't use his quirk to the fullest because he needs it to be in a completely dark room. But he can use one part of it to its fullest industry standardized combat. People don't believe him until he just runs up to the robot and throws it through a wall. Now, whenever he threw it through a wall, he's actually just holding onto the scientist by their collar, stating that seems like that was just 20 years of work wasted for nothing, as he would politely set him down and wipe the dirt off his collar, walking away. Now, this scientist is trying to process how much time he's wasted on trying to look intimidating with his suit instead of actual maneuverability and fighting capability. Because he's basically just using the suit to grab people and just grapple fights. So, yeah. Now, Deku and May are working on the suit and actually getting access to better tech. So her suit would actually get quite an upgrade to the point where it is actually fueled on a very... Well, it's not an unstable fuel cell, but if you've ever seen a fusion core from Fallout 4, it's almost like that, but these things are... They get access to it at UA, because they would donate this portion of gear to UA because of how impressed they are with the suit, and because they want to see them make more progress. So the support class would actually get upgrades and better equipment. Actually, some of it is better than the equipment Deku would have in his garage. Now then. As that is happening, Deku and May are up very late, and they are working on their stuff. She's making some adjustments to the suit and fitting it for the new power source. This is when Deku, having the beacon on him, would actually get a ping. Now, whenever it pings as being only 2 to 3 blocks away from there. Deku would tell May to suit up and meet him at this location, and he would immediately just run out the door. Now, since it's actually nighttime, he would take his goggles off and fight with, and actually approach Stain. So he would actually just wear his goggles around his neck. Now then, whenever he arrives, he would immediately punch Stain and grab his sword. And Stain would be pissed off, saying that who does this hero think he is? And then Ida would just say, Midoriya? Anyways. Stain would then just say that it's such a problem meeting young heroes early on in their career, Deku would say that he's no hero, he's just a student, and he's here to protect his friend. That is why he gave him one of these. He would then hold it up in his hand, a little beacon, and Stain would see one in Ida's hand. Because let's just say he had it in his hand before he walked into the alley, because he actually did take Deku's words to heart. So he was going to have it ready in case anything happened to him. Now, Deku would tell Ida that his brother got, crippled? His brother got crippled by this villain, so it makes sense that you want to take revenge, but this is the entirely wrong way to do it. Deku would then blitz Stain, attacking him. Now, whenever he does do this, but Ida is trying to find out where Deku is, looking around, and this is whenever Deku would just try telling Stain to stay still, or to stop moving entirely. Stain would actually not listen to this at all, and this is whenever Deku would just punch him in the face and try and send him flying. Stain would try and retaliate by coming back at him with a couple fists and cutting him along the cheek. Now, as soon as he does that, he essentially stops Deku, and Deku would immediately look at Stain, and he would try moving again. Now, Stain would just tell him that that's not going to work, because his quirk paralyzes anyone who he consumes the blood of. And this is whenever Deku would actually be moving, but he looks very robotic when he does. He would try turning around and walking towards Stain, but his body just keeps trying to jerk back to a standing motion. Stain would say that that's not possible. He's never seen anyone do that with his quirk. And this is whenever he would start succumbing to Deku's demands of just staying and sitting down, or surrendering. Stain would try and fight back against this in his brain, and he would essentially do his whole blood message to the world in the alley instead of whenever he got captured. But right before he finishes, Mei would come in, punching him in the back of the head with, one of these giant gauntlets. She would punch him in the back of the head, actually sending him out of the alley, as the pro heroes would be passing by and see this commotion. They would see the hero killer, and then they would just see as Mei would come flying out of the alley, tasing him, actually taking him out. Now then, as that would happen, people keep talking about how that YouTube pros shouldn't be here, and it was not very smart to take on the hero killer. This is whenever Mei would actually just take off her helmet, saying that she's no pro yet. She is from Class 1A, and she's actually on internship. And Deku would then say the same thing, that they're both at the same internship, but their friend needed their help. People would ask what they mean by this, and then they would walk into the alley to see that Native is injured, and Ida is somewhat recovering from Stain's attack. But sadly, he's still somewhat injured. Now then, Ida would explain to Deku that his brother Ingenium is actually still in the hospital because of what Stain did to him. It paralyzed his legs. Deku would understand this, and he would tell Ida that he might have something that can actually help him. He would then show him. They would then go back to the support course agency where Deku and Mei had their entire thing, and they would show him a bit of an exoskeleton that Mei was actually designing. It was essentially a prototype they had, but they weren't going to use it for anything because they said that they didn't really have an idea of what to use it for. So Mei and Deku would actually take it and modify it to where they would modify it to where it could essentially be plugged in and send shocks to the entire nervous system. And if you guys have ever seen, it's a real life phenomenon because there's been a guy who's actually had his arms and legs blown off. And whenever he got replacement limbs, he was actually able to use them after getting a couple hours of electroshock therapy. So they would get to the point where they would eventually help Ingenium get back up on his feet. And he essentially has... Now then, he would have these style of legs, the way the mechanic system is around the leg on the left and the right, and up towards where the hips are, but he'd also have a part of the skeleton actually on his spine, and it would just run up to his back. And they would have gotten to the point with engineering it to the point where he can put it on someone like a belt, but it has to be like skin strapped to his legs. Like, they have to have buckles on his legs, on his thighs, on his hip, and he essentially has to wear a harness around it to connect it over his shoulders and down to his belt. Now then, whenever he does do that, he would go through therapy and recovering a lot faster, and he would still be able to walk, but he would not be able to do hero work. And he would just say that the Ingenium family owes you a favor for what you have helping me. Deku would just say that so far is a prototype. So if they do make any progress on more and more technology like that, they can actually help you. We would be able to help you further. But that'll just keep you walking. You can't really run with it. I mean, you probably can, but it would fall apart very easily. So, this is whenever Ingenium would understand and just be... He wouldn't be regulated to a desk job, but he would still work for his family's agency. Now, I'm going to be leaving that off of this part, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Alright, peace out, guys.